Today, Human Hope is brought to you by ELIC. When I was growing up, my dad would say in every one of his sermons, because he preached at Primera Iglesia Bautista de Pico Rivera, First Bilingual Baptist Church of Pico Rivera, and he would always say, Dios es el mismo en inglés y español. God is the same in English and in Spanish. Now, the reason why he would say that is because he would literally preach his sermons in English and in Spanish at the same time, like one sentence, then he would translate himself. Because all the old people spoke Spanish, but all the young people spoke English. And it was important he did that so that everybody in the room could hear the good news. Now, let me tell you what ELIC does. They are dedicated to changing lives by equipping and sending people to teach English in unreached areas of the planet. We're talking about Asia, the Middle East, North Africa. And what I love about it is they train people like you. So if you're a college student, if you're a recent graduate, or really beyond, ELIC has a program specifically for you. I mean, imagine for just a second being able to go to Asia, teach English to people there so that they can be able to consume more good news. That is what I'm talking about. So they've got a 2 to 6 week option in the summer. That's perfect for college students. So if you're a college student, if you're a graduate, if you've got a child that's a college student like I do, what an incredible opportunity for them to get out and see the world and literally be human hope to the planet. Listen, if you or someone you know is ready to create hope with that global impact, visit elic.org/human hope. I'm serious. Go do it right now. elic.org/human hope. Heather, we are sitting with some of our best friends on planet Earth.
Via the internet.
No, they're not our internet best friends.
Oh, you're right. I mean, we're not sitting
we're not sitting with them. No, I'm looking at them
Yes,
on a computer screen on a MacBook Air. Somewhere in the bowels of South Atlanta, have our two friends, Blake and Allie Bergstrom. Will you just say hello to the Human Hope listeners?
We are thrilled that you guys would have us. Love you guys. I do wish we were sitting in a living room together.
I know. I do too. Blake?
I want to say hi because I've been a part of this Insta Familia for a long time, and I love all y'all folks. I love the way you love Carlos and Heather and their whole crew and their dogs and their birds, and their whole story,
and their
bees, the whole story. Yeah, so we love all y'all. Thanks for having us today, Carlos.
Absolutely. We chose you. Well, I could have had you on 40 different subject matters when it comes to what I talk about on my podcast, but we chose specifically for the first and not last time that you'll be on the Human Hope podcast to talk about parenting, to talk about what it means to be a parent. Because when I asked my Human Hope familia, what do you want me to do a series on? They were like, parenting. And it was like 1,000 questions about parenting. And so neither yourselves nor ourselves are parenting experts, but we have parented together for a long time, which I think is something that we all can just kind of, chat about for a little bit. So let me do this. Let me kind of throw the softball your way, and both of you can answer this in however you feel. But talk to us about what raising your kids cross-pollinated with us raising our kids has been like for you. Like let's just kind of tell a little bit of our story
about their kids. Talk about your kids. How many kids do you have?
Oh yeah, sure.
That's really important in the parenting.
Yeah, I was going to get there, but you can go ahead and take over.
Sorry.
So we have 4 daughters, Madison, Mariah, Montana, Mercy. And those girls are all incredibly close with especially your 2 oldest.
Right.
Or Losiah.
Losiah was also, yeah. But the way that we have cross-pollinated, I'll never forget a story of going to McDonald's with Losiah. And he was probably, how old was he?
Probably like 4, maybe.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old.
He was itty.
Yeah. And we walked in and there was a homeless guy that was sitting there and he was so hungry.
I don't know this story.
Yes, you do.
and he didn't have any money. He was sitting there wanting to eat food, and so Losiah asked me, will you feed him? Can we get him something? And he said he has $1 in his pocket, and he gave me his dollar. And I'm like, Losiah, we'll buy whatever you want. And so we went up and got him some food, and I'll never forget Losiah watching him eat and we sat beside him. And yeah, I'm getting emotional, man.
Wow. I've never heard that story in my entire life. Ever.
Yeah.
Now, probably listen, let's be fair. Probably when Losiah was 4 years old, you may have told me that story, and I was in no way, shape, or form healthy enough to even recall. So,
Yeah, beautiful.
That is beautiful. Wow. That is sweet.
So,
but we have so many stories together.
Yeah, we cross-pollinated because you guys were on staff at a church that we were going to attend. Allie, you actually went. We didn't really know each other. We met each other maybe once or twice at a party, but you actually went and picked out our condo that we were going to rent.
Oh, yes.
She went and checked it out for
Brandy.
us. Yeah. And then, that first date we pulled in and there were all these people here and you're like unpacking my underwear drawer. And I'm like, I guess we're like friends. We're in. We're in because they're unloading and all your kids were there serving. And I would say for me, your kids, that is like they are. You ask them to do something and they are 100% in, whether that's tornado, whether that's celebrating a party, whatever it is, like your kids are, I'm there to do it.
Yeah, no, it's so I do remember that too. And I remember, I guess how old would Madison have been in that?
How old was Maddie?
She's now 26.
She's 26.
But when we first met, how old was she when you guys moved here or to Nashville?
2009.
Probably 13 or 14, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
I remember too moving in our little condo and walking in, seeing all these little girls, and I was like, who are these little girls just running around and then my girls were like enamored by yours, and so began the beginning of watching our kids literally
become sisters.
Yeah.
We have watched our kids do gymnastics in our front yard for hours. Every time Taylor Swift cut an album, we were memorizing it together.
Yeah,
and doing
all
together.
The dances.
Yeah, and
all the wardrobe changes.
All the fighting, all the arguing.
There's
lots of fighting.
All the fights. All the phone calls.
Drama. Yeah. The teenager girls.
And now, now we find ourselves, I had the honor of standing at the end of the aisle as you walk down one of your beautiful daughters, and it got the opportunity to marry them. And, it just is... when Montana, when they called me to ask if I would marry, I just remember I was by myself in a hotel parking lot in a rental car and just weeping, bawling. I just remember going God is so good, it's. Let's go here for a second. I feel like a lot of people. And I think maybe rightfully so, because there's some respects of it, but they mourn their kids getting older. They mourn, moving out of the, little princess, world into adulthood. I kind of although there are things to mourn, talk to us about the blessings of seeing your daughters grow up and where you find yourself now. Because a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast are probably thinking they either have toddlers or they're in the throes of teenageville and they're like, oh my gosh, this is miserable. Are they ever going to talk to us about the beauty that you guys find yourself in this current season?
Yeah. So our baby is 20 and all of our girls are adults. They're full blown. 3 of them are married. We've got grandkids,
3.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
And now, to know our kids enjoy being around us and we really enjoy being around them. We are friends.
Yeah.
We're still parents. I don't think you ever really stop parenting. It's just very different, but we love spending time with our kids and they love to spend time with us, which is such a huge blessing.
How did that happen?
How did that
That's
happen?
what people
So-
are listening. People are going like, I want that. I want that. How can I get my kids to want to be with me?
I think, can I say, never once did we hang out where our kids weren't there. Like, never once did we like separate ourselves from our kids. It literally was always family.
Literally, the
It
only
was
time we
always-
ever did was a month ago, and our kids were so
Exactly.
jealous.
They were so mad that we didn't take them on vacation with us. But
Yes.
that's our relation. Like, you guys, whatever you did, whether it was serving, whether it was in the church, whether it was work in the work in Blake used to have a woodworking shop. Your kids were a part. They were always there. They were always active. They were always there, you know? And so I think that translates into adulthood because you've always had friendship, even though you're parenting, you know, when they were home, they were always a part. So of course, naturally, they still want that.
Yeah, what do you guys say?
So we're both homeschooling parents. And so when we made that decision, I was the youth pastor, and I remember going to the schools and being overwhelmed with the fact that there were 17 adult voices in a kid's life per day. And this was like 20 years ago. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, so how can my voice stand out amongst the thick surrounding crowd of coaches and coaches and teachers and all the voices they hear every day? And I wanted my voice to be stronger than that. And so Allie felt called to be a homeschooling mom. But because of that, I think both of our kids are very good at talking to adults.
Yeah.
They never were afraid to talk to adults.
Right.
So then it's because we had so much conversation with them. But you ask how. We asked our kids a bunch of questions today to like talk to us about the good and the bad of things that we did well and things we did awful at. And one of the things they said over and over is how we made intentional time to be around the dining table 3 to 5 times a week. Like we worked hard to have conversation and be engaged with their day-to-day life. But we did something. If I'm going to give you the one parenting,
Can I
go ahead.
piggyback on that real fast? And it wasn't just around the table, like it's a different time.
Yeah.
We're so old, but everybody's got cell phones now. Our kids didn't have those.
Yeah.
We didn't bring them to the table. So conversation happened, eye contact happened. And I think, like you said, Heather, our kids were always around. When the 4 of us were together, our kids were in and out and in and out.
Right.
And our kids, all of them, all 7 of them collectively, I think really felt like their voice mattered. In our friendship, it mattered. In our parenting, in our relationship, it mattered. They weren't hushed because they were little.
That's good.
Their voice mattered. And I think
It's good.
that plays a part in, they know we wanted them around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blake, you were going to say something.
This is all I've got. We probably
This is the one swing you got right here. We can end the podcast after this.
I'm sure that my children will have counseling because of us eventually.
No, they are.
Yeah, they already are. So there's that. But I will say that if there's one thing that I'm proud of, I'll never forget when I was leaving Bible college to go be a pastor. I was having these massive doubts, and I was like, I don't know if I can teach this because I'm not sure I believe it. And I went to my favorite professor and I told him I'm struggling. I think a lot of this is great literature, but I'm not sure if it's true. And I actually struggle, especially with the story of Jonah. And I feel like it's a beautiful literary piece that's like timed perfectly. And I was like, I'm not sure. It sounds like it's fable. He was in a fish for 3 days. And then the whole city of Nineveh came to know the Lord. It's strong. It's a big, beautiful, powerful message, but I'm not sure it's true. So I was telling him that, and he said, Blake, what do you want to be? And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, what kind of life do you want to have? Like, what kind of person do you want to become is what he was asking me. And I said, well, I don't know. I want to have to be filled with joy and love and kindness and goodness. He goes, that, right there, that. He said, if you'll do that and you'll produce the fruit of the Spirit in your life, you'll be proud of the legacy that you have. Like, just go do that. And I was like, Doc, his name is Doc Reese. Doc, that was worth every penny I paid for this. Right? Thank you. And I left going, I want my life to be built on the fruit of the Spirit. Like what the world's hungry for is gentleness, right?
Yeah.
Where's that? To be kindness, joy. Right. Who really has joy, right? And so I decided to build everything, every business I've ever built, every ministry I've ever had, but especially every child that I've raised to look like the fruit of the Spirit. And so if there's one thing that I wanted to see.
He's a girl dad.
That, alive in my kids. And so around my dining table, we would regularly say, hey, talk about the fruit that you saw this week. And then Madison would say, well, in mercy to this today, I saw gentleness. Or Mariah would say, well, Mama, in you, I saw peace or gentleness and kindness, right? And we taught them to talk about the fruit that they saw in one another's life 3 to 5 times a week. We would do that.
That's good.
That's not all we had. And so now the repercussions of that is they long for that. They still come to our house and do that, married with their husbands. When we go on family vacation, they want to do that. But not just that. Here's the best part. Our kids will walk up to anybody and they'll tell, I'm sorry, they'll tell them, hey, I just want you to know that I see the love of God in you.
Yeah.
And they'll just start telling them like things that they see in them. And so if we've done anything right in parenting, it's them two things. Them learning to listen to the voice of God.
Yep.
Right? Learning to hear the voice. I think that's our only job as parents.
Sure,
and
that's
number
good.
Number two, with authority, being able to speak on behalf of God.
Good.
Right? Like being able to say, hey, I think I heard this, felt this, saw this, whatever. I need to tell you this.
Dang.
And so that's it. We can go home. That's all I got. Yeah.
It's given our kids the confidence to speak life over people, not just each other, not just their spouse, but literally they're looking for the fruits of the Spirit in the world around them. So it's given them eyes to really look for that.
And I think,
and they see it.
Yeah. And I think that is teamed with one of the things that I've met a lot of people, and I can say that you are some of the few that literally, like Blake, I know that Losiah, you tell that story of Losiah and the homeless man, but you saw the homeless man. I remember driving down a freeway and pulling over because there was a homeless man, or the amounts of times there are people in your house. You took Carlos in, the amount of people that you have not sheltered your kids from real life, from the pain that life comes with, but you shepherd them to show those fruits within the crap of life. And so I think that the beauty of that is that your kids are not like these projects that are like love, joy, and just like these little like goody tissues that are like checking all the I'm a good kid box and showing love and kindness. Like they're actually seeing the heartbreak of life and applying it there. And that's the difference. And that you guys have done so well as far as of having a heart that truly sees people and loves people that are probably not the easiest to love.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather. That was very kind. I would like to say we try our hardest to live our life on mission. Now, we have worked on a church staff a lot, but there's been so much church hurt and so much pain at every one of those churches, being fired, immorality, sexual stuff, just gross stuff that my kids have had to see and watch. And so sometimes it's protecting them from the church, but then also seeing our kids defend who we are in the midst of really broken system, right? Them speaking life into us. And I remember I got fired from a church in Colorado, and my daughter Mariah just said, well, that's because Pastor Todd doesn't know who you are, Daddy. She was like sick. I remember here's one of the things that I would also say that is very important in parenting. We do get them involved in downtown inner city ministry. They were involved in, if somebody needed to move, we were helping. There's always that sort of, help kind of service stuff. Mm-hmm. But we also every time one of them turned 14, we took them on an international missions trip. So that was a big part of them growing up. And we also, as a family, went to Africa and served. So we wanted them to be like, have an eyes for a global world and help see the world in all of its brokenness. That was a big part of their, I don't know, that really shaped them.
Yeah. I think along with that is we have created space for us to not be okay, our kids to not be okay, for the people we invite into our home to not be okay. And, but to know that in community, there's healing.
Right.
And in community, there's joy. And in community, you know, that's where the deep love and life happens. And so our kids have seen us struggle, and we've been as honest as we could for whatever age they were.
Right.
With, if they asked questions, we told them the truth. We didn't shelter them, like you were saying.
Right.
It was honest. And so as our kids have struggled, there's a safety in our home because they've seen broken people in our home be loved.
Right.
And it's safe there. That there's just a safety that they can be questioning their faith. They can be walking, you know, off the straight and narrow and come and confess it. And there's safety and healing, and they know we're not going.
You know how weird that is? It's really rare to have kids that feel like they can openly talk about their sin, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like safe to talk about where they're jacked up.
Right.
And so like my son-in-laws, now that they're in our family, they also talk to me about struggles that they have.
Right.
And they're real. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
But you guys have created that same environment for your kids, and it's safe in your home, and they're honest.
This week, Human Hope is partnering with Simple Modern. Y'all, I finally got my tumbler back. My son stole my Simple Modern tumbler, and I got it back. And guess what? When I walk around, people are like, that's a nice tumbler. Wait a second. I don't see that certain logo on it. That's right, because it's not that certain logo. It's not that expensive. It is a great tumbler that keeps my stuff hot or keeps my stuff cold. And in this season, I want everything to stay cold. Simple Modern is a fast-growing company that is one of the top drinkware providers to Target, Walmart, and Amazon. Okay, they're the perfect brand for everything you need this summer because it is hot. But they also have everything you need for back to school. They got backpacks, drinkware, lunch bags, and all your favorite designs. Maybe the best part is that they give 10% of profits to nonprofits that are committed to causes like solving the water crisis, fighting human trafficking, education, ending homelessness, and helping underprivileged communities. So listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to simplemodern.com/humanhope. And by sharing your email, you'll get a unique discount code just for you or bundle and save for back to school.
I just think, Allie, of what was that, like 3, anyways, a period not long ago when one of our kids was not well, but she was literally not well. That
Narrows it down. 2 out of 3.
Like literally was not well in front of you guys. And I love that. Like they literally felt safe and loved, where she was breaking down literally at the table that everyone else was around. But we were all there going, okay, like we're in it.
Well, you're the same, Heather. Our daughters, when they're hurt, and they're like, I need to call Miss Heather.
Yeah.
Like they still feel like you're part of, you've been a voice and a mother in their life. Yeah. So Carlos, you've been a dad.
That's like deep community, right? Like, yeah.
It, I think that hearing you say that you create a safe place for them to not be okay. I'm thinking as a listener going like, okay, how do I do that? How do I create a safe place for my kids? They're only 2 right now. Do I do something now, or do I have to wait until they're 15 and smoking pot? How do I create a safe place for them to feel again, and for them to feel like they can come to you, but also, you know, how do you create a safe enough space where other people are bringing their struggles into your home while wanting to protect your kids from, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, I mean, I don't know, like, can I bring somebody in, and are my kids going to be okay? Like, are they going to be bad influences? Are they going to, you know, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think the first question, like, is 2 years old too young? Like, how do you start there? But I think something that we did, we were babies, having babies.
Right.
We were 20 and 22. We didn't know what we were doing at all.
In fact, I might go ahead and say that for grandparents, you have to admit we are sexy.
Yeah, yeah. You guys are hot. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm like hotgrandparents.com. Actually, don't put that in your browser. We're not going to put that website in the show notes, because if you click that, you may see things you don't want to see.
That's terrible. Sorry. But like we didn't have tools in our toolbox. Okay, so there was a lot of intense fellowship, as we will call it, for the kids, and then there was a lot of, hey kids, I am so sorry.
Yes.
The amount of times I had to go to my girls and say, girls, I completely disrespected your dad, and you witnessed that, and I am so sorry. Will you please forgive me? Just teaching kids that it's okay to own when you fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
you're
good.
going to fail. Like, perfection's not expected.
Right.
It can't be. So what was the second question?
It was more about, the second part was bringing people in and around you that may be off the straight and narrow. And, some parents may be thinking, well, are my kids like going to be able to handle, somebody that's ruined their family and moving in and eating Del Taco every night at 11:30 p.m. Like, are my kids going to be like manipulated by these sinners? I'm talking about myself. I'm literally talking about myself. For the podcast listeners that don't know this, haven't read Kill the Spider, I moved in with the Bergstrom family when I destroyed my life, and they happily brought me in.
Yeah.
And so but just talk about that, because.
But you're not the only one. You are.
I was just on a long
many.
line. Like, I'm glad that there was room at the end, because you guys always had a bunch of knuckleheads in your house.
I like to say we take on strays.
I mean, I think there is obviously you have to walk in discernment and wisdom. And if there's real concern for the safety of your children, don't invite somebody in. But at the same time, for kids to see, even like we had, Carlos, you were a success story in our home. But we've had people live with us that weren't reconciled to their family, and they were angry and bitter, and those moments are as teachable as the moments where Carlos is repentant. It's as we never wanted to shelter our kids from those hard things. So when said person would leave to go to work, we'd say, guys, I know you heard XYZ. That is in no way to talk about another human being.
That's good.
Whether you're angry with them or not, whether they've hurt you or not, like just teachable moments of, I don't know. I think the risk is worth it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I feel like we are afraid of teachable moments in our culture right now. I feel like we'd rather coat everyone and make sure everything is in place.
Don't go there.
Instead of actually walking into the mess, or, living in it, or inviting people to, live with you. And, it's the number one thing that people say, how did your kids get this way? I'm like, they saw like a disaster, and they also saw us like heal, and they walked with us in it. And that's why they have this
and
maturity.
Also, when it comes, I think two things. Number one, I remember, just from my experience living with you, with both of you and your beautiful family, kids are a lot more, they're not only a lot more resilient than we give them credit for, but they're wise. They, yes, we need to protect our kids from things, but also like your kids were healing for me. Like your literal children. I could start crying right now, but like your literal children were healing for me when I didn't know if I was ever going to live with my family again. Actually, at this point, maybe a month in, I wasn't ever. Blake looked me square in the eye. I was like, nah, Heather's fine without you, and I would come home at 11:30 with my Del Taco and my Captain Crunch And I would sit at the table, and your daughters would just come up to me and they would hug me, and they were like, Uncle Carlos, come watch this with us. Come watch this. And they were literally part of my healing. And so I just as careful as we need to be with our children, obviously, don't discount the role that they can play in someone else's healing as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also had, what you guys talked about, the wood shop in the backyard. We had, when Blake left ministry and he was doing woodworking in our backyard, people thought we were crazy. Like, here we are homeschooling our 4 daughters, and
they're like blonde-headed, gorgeous bombshells.
They're just the cutest little things. And then we've got a business in our backyard that is for addicts and homeless, and it was a rougher crew of guys, men, but we would have lunch together around our table, and there were literally men sitting at our table who had never eaten a meal with a family around a table, and to be able to give that gift to somebody and to withhold that just feels cruel. So
I love, there's this one story where I went hunting, and while I was gone, I had forgotten that I invited this guy to come and work in the wood shop.
Awesome. I'd forgotten that I invited a felon to my house, but I was hunting.
No, he was a felon.
Oh, he was.
He was had a full grill.
Can I tell the story? Because I was scarred.
Oh, yeah.
On the door, 7 o'clock in the morning. Blake's nowhere to be found. We did have a big dog, which was comforting, but we lived in the country, so it's not like we had people just show up and knock on the door. You don't just show up at our house. And so I opened the door, and there is a probably 6'6" man with gold teeth. And I was like, can I help you? And he goes, is Pastor Blake here? Okay, he knows him from church. And I said, he's not. Can I help you? What do you need? And he goes, well, he told me I could come do some work. Because Blake would just, when he was still on staff, he would just hire these guys because he wanted to spend time with them. And they needed work. They weren't hireable. And so I'm like, well, come on in. He'll be here in just a little bit. The whole time I'm thinking, I have no clue when he's going to be home. And there's 4 girls upstairs. Yeah. And it's me. And I'm 5'2". So he sits down. I'm like, can I get you some coffee? And he goes, sure. And I said, so how'd you meet Blake? And he goes, well, I got out of prison 2 weeks ago. And I'm like going, maybe we are crazy. Maybe this isn't hard.
Maybe this is it. This is the moment.
But do you know that guy spent 2 years, every 5 days a week, he'd drive out to our house.
Wow.
He's eating with our family. Like, literally, he was a throwaway human. He felt like nobody will ever hire me. Nobody will ever love me. And because our family took the risk.
Yeah. In his words, he always would say, I feel like I'm the old piece of wood, because I would take old wood and restore it.
Come on, dude.
And he was like, his name was Amir. And he's just such a special man. He just became a part of our family.
Yeah.
But that's like one story of, I don't know, 10 or 15 that lived in our home and became a part of our business, and my kids, all love them like their family. Yeah. And so
there have been a couple times we've invited somebody in, and Blake panicked and then slept like by the door that the person was in, because he really did bring a homeless man in for Christmas Eve one night.
Right. Of course.
And so he slept in front of the door because he's like, I don't know this person.
I was packing a gun. I was ready.
That was probably not. See, that's where wisdom would come in. You wouldn't do that.
This is the parenting 201 seminar class. Exactly. Once you get past 101, you can bring in sleep with a gun next to the door.
Right. Exactly.
Amazing. What do you guys feel when it comes to, this may be a little touchy here. When not really touchy, but one thing that kind of drives me a little batty these days is people that are constantly just trying to protect their kids from whatever, like we don't, this world has nothing for us, right? That we are in this world, but not of it. There is debauchery everywhere. And sometimes I get a little frustrated when I am in a conversation with either, it could be on Twitter, it could be anywhere, where people are like, no, we've got to protect our kids. We've got to protect our kids. We've got to protect our kids from the debauchery that is, out there in the world. Talk to us, and maybe we've kind of leaned into this a little bit, but a little bit about your point of view. And now I'm more talking about like little kids now. Okay. So I want you to put like your toddler hat on, about raising your kids in a morally righteous environment, as morally righteous may be the wrong way to say it, but as you can create for them, yet also not just protecting them from everything, right? So I may be having a hard time getting to the point here. There's just, I feel like it's impossible to protect our kids from everything. Like it's just impossible. So do you have any words for the parents that feel like Blake and Allie, Carlos and Heather, like it's just there's too much coming at them. I'm going to lock my kid in the house forever. They can't watch TV. They can't have a phone. They can't do all these things because the world is coming. The world is coming. And I just feel like there's a whole, the sky is falling mentality in at least the spaces I'm in. And I'm like, listen, like our kids are going to be okay, but that doesn't really help people in the parenting thing. So I really kind of throw that to Heather, to Blake, to Allie. What do you say to maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should be protecting our kids from every, image of debauchery that they're going to see. But in my head, I don't know if we can do that. So how do we handle how current culture may be pouring more of that stuff for our kids to see than maybe when we were raising our kids when they were younger?
Yeah, I don't think you can't, unless you don't take them to the grocery store.
Sure.
Like you can turn the TV on, like it's everywhere. So it's impossible. Uh-huh. You can't keep them at home locked up forever. But.
Can I speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah.
So I spoke about how there's 17 voices, and those are different adults that went in our kids' lives. And I think since we both are homeschooling parents, a lot of times as soon as you say that, a lot of people think, oh, so they wear a blue dress and
sure.
all they listen to, right? Mary Poppins is all they've ever seen on TV, and right, and they only listen to music that's like symphonies. There's these views like of what a homeschool. I think that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
But the truth is, when you think about the amount of media and what happens on a phone. And as a parent, how do you parent through the struggles of how much time a kid should be on a phone, and all the voices and all the movies that, when you say voice, I'm not talking about just adults. I'm talking about the voices of influencers
sure.
That are found on TikTok and Snapchat, and all the ways that they can be bombarded today. And that's why I think it's more important now than ever for parents to be the spiritual authority and the spiritual leaders over the hearts of their kids, that they're actually guarding it and protecting them from all of those voices and speaking truth louder than the rest of the world. Yeah. And so I think that's what you're trying to say.
This week, we are once again partnering with Indeed. Is hiring a challenge? Yes, right. Do you love a challenge? Well, of course not. Not if you don't got some help, okay? You need a hiring partner that can help you rise to the challenge. Who is that? That is Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a hiring platform that can help you do it all, okay? They streamline hiring with powerful tools that help you find and match candidates. Now listen, here's one of the tools I love. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description. Ready for this? The moment they sponsor a job. So, one of the things I love about Indeed is that Indeed helped me find Whitney from Wisconsin, my assistant, who's turned into more than just an assistant. She actually is like my second brain, and I'm so grateful for Indeed. Okay, so even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements, not every single application. So join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/humanhope. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/humanhope. Just go to Indeed.com/humanhope and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/humanhope. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Yeah, thanks for helping me because I really had a hard time trying to say it.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I think for something that you do so good, and you've done it many times, even in this podcast, is teaching people how to see each other and speak life over each other. And it was interesting. Carlos and I were having a conversation earlier today just about having your children, like it was about technology, but like providing something more exciting than the technology, right? So that they would rather be jumping off a cliff or going kayaking or then being in front of their screen. It was about screen time. And I think that that's something that you guys do well in regards to your kids, that could be applied to this question, is that you speak louder than outside forces. And even when there were outside forces that were speaking or maybe twisted a little bit of your kids at different times, you jumped right in and you're like, nope. And you pressed and it was brutal, but you pressed and you got your children to see themselves again, and I think that that's something that is not done well in our culture.
Yeah. One of the things that when we asked our kids today, what were the things we did right, one of the things we did wrong, all of them said, like bedtime, like stories with dad was the highlight of our life.
That's so sweet.
And so like before they'd go to bed, I usually tried to take some sort of a biblical story or something and tell it with like incredible excitement, joy, and fun, and made the Bible come to life in our kids' lives. So according to them, that's what they said. And that's probably one of their favorite things about growing up. And so I think it's a sin to make the Bible boring. Mm-hmm. And it's parents' job more than anybody else to help them see the life that's found in the Word of God. And so if you make it dull and drudgery and you don't like it, then they won't either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what the energy and passion that you bring to teaching the Word of God is how much they'll have.
Yeah.
They'll never, it's like leadership. They'll never be above your leadership. They're going to always be below. And if yours is way low and you're just barely teaching the Bible ever, well, then why would they care? It doesn't matter to them, right? And so are they listening for the voice of God, or they listen to all the thick surrounding voices of the world? And so that's the most important thing, is to help them discern and hear the Lord in the midst of crazy and chaos. And as you would say, debauchery and lust and arrogance and anger and bitterness and jealousy, all these things that are just awful. Well, how do I go, hold on, can you hear peace?
Yeah.
Can you hear, and are you listening for peace? And what did it say?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I would say a way to make that happen, especially when they're really little, is turning off. I mean, this does sound like, a typical homeschool mom. Turn the TV off, go outside. Like, you want to experience joy and peace and imagination. There is so much. There's so much out there.
And that's what the Wickstroms did that, right? We were always out hiking together as families.
You want to hear the voice of God?
My favorite thing was what were those big things that we went? What are those? Manatees.
Oh,
in Florida, we did.
I'll link to. I actually have a YouTube vlog. I'll have them link to that good. Exact moment that Heather's talking about where we went.
Was so fun.
Well, and Allie, I think that hearing both you and Blake answer the question I couldn't ask, but you figured out what I was asking. What is the whole idea of your voice? Let your voice of truth be the thing that they hear the most, And as you were just talking about how, yeah, turn the TV off, like all the voices of debauchery or anger or rage. I'm literally hearing you say that, but thinking, wow, every single adult can do this too and probably feel a lot better about life. Right. And so
Sure.
I was actually doing some research for my next book this afternoon or this morning and saw that. It's so funny because we're worried about our kids seeing things they shouldn't see, yet while as we adults are mindlessly scrolling rage on Facebook and Twitter all day long.
Right.
And what the research that I read showed was that like 93% of all the content on Twitter is actually being created by the extreme left or the extreme right. So 90 something percent of everything we're reading on Twitter is extreme, like all of it is extreme ideology. And so whereas the rest of it is where most of humans live is in the middle. And so just turn it off. Like if you just stop reading that stuff, then we're not going to be so angry all the time and we're not going to be, and it's the same thing for our kids, like if it works for our kids, it works for us,
Right.
Hey, Carlos, I have some stuff for your book. You ready?
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Since 2020, I've just felt like my eyes have been open. Like I want, Lord, give me eyes to see and ears to hear. Show me what I need to not what I need to unlearn.
Yeah.
And what you want me to actually learn. And so if you think about it, we're told to look at and sit down in our living room and we're going to stare at a big screen.
Yeah.
And that screen's going to tell us a vision.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. What's your proudest moment? Not like a singular moment, but like something you did. And let's take out of like, we don't have to answer the spiritual realm, teaching them about Jesus, things like that. Literally, what it like you said, the kids all loved reading, you telling them stories. What are some things that are practical for parents, whether they're in faith or not, that they can do that? We got your table, we got bedtime stories, but give me a couple other things that you guys were like, I would do that again.
For me, it was in 2014. There's this boy that came to my house and he went to Home Depot and he had a piece of paper and he'd written down all the tools that he wants. And he was asking me to provide those tools. And I said, well, praise God, every single one of these tools, I have two. So you're going to go home with them. But then he said, could you provide a wood shop? He was living in an orphanage in Africa. And he said, could you provide a wood shop for all the rest of my orphans, all the rest of my family? There's 250 orphans in this particular orphanage. And so I said yes. And that meant that he said, I want you to bring your whole family. And so that meant that we were going to have to raise $25,000 and we were poor. We didn't have a lot of money. And so I was like, wow, that seems impossible. How are we going to raise $25,000? But our kids set out together to do that. They started knitting gloves. You remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they started selling. You bought some of them, I think. And whatever they could do, we did sales, bake sales, all these different things to try and raise money. And together we did that. And my greatest, probably proudest moment, it was seeing my daughters hold those babies and singing with them and worshiping with them and serving them and cleaning their hair and picking out bugs and like helping them, watching the kids share their meals and how happy they were when they sang and how heaven was on earth in this orphanage. But our family all set out together to do that. And it radically changed us in 14. That was just a very powerful moment of parenting for us. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I have to choose one thing, like that I would do again, is that the question?
Sure.
I would do
It
this
doesn't have to be one. It could be a couple, whatever.
part of the perk of homeschooling, and I think I would have done this even if they were in school, it just would have been a little more challenging, I think, because they come home with so much work and it's like their school day doesn't end. It's all day. But because I had them all day, I worked really hard helping them communicate what they're really feeling, which is funny because I wasn't great at communicating what I really felt, but I tried really hard to help them use their words to communicate what was going on in their heart to each other.
Yeah.
So when they were upset with one another, like really, I mean, parenting is all about intentionality. So you have to get down on their level and say, okay, Mercy, I want you to tell Montana what she did that hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Montana, I want you to how does that make you feel? You know, like just sitting in the moment, which takes, feels like when they were little, it felt like, is this season ever going to end? But if you do it when they're young, they're so much better at it when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
And married.
And married.
Yeah.
Like, and something, and I don't even know, they could need counseling over this, but I would say to them, girls, the way you talk to each other and fight with each other is how you're going to fight with your spouse.
Yeah.
So you should learn this here
Yeah.
so that it's not so hard when you're married.
That's great.
I love it. That's amazing. You two, we love you so much. This has been very helpful, honestly, for me. Like I'm ready to start over. Give me some grandkids so I can start to parent them the way that you just explained.
We don't get to parent our grandkids.
Oh, you're right. I can just do whatever I want with the grandkids.
It's the best. It's the best.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
I will say that a lot of people don't talk about this, Carlos. Now that my kids are all moving out, Mercy's about to be married, and I've had a really hard time with this season, and it's partly because I felt like having kids in my house was the best part of my life, and I'll tell you that at some point you have to look back and go, those were the best years, right? At some point in our lives. And for me, I loved having children in my home. And so it's quiet now, and it's sad. It's been a very long, hard, sad season for me. Allie's like, take the shackles off my feet so I can live.
I spent all day, every day for
20 years, right?
6 years answering all the questions.
But for me, it's been hard. I just want to prepare you, Carlos. It's actually a lot harder than you think.
No, trust me. I know. I've watched you sit despondent and depressed on your sofa. I've seen the pain in your eyes as all your beautiful girls go away. Don't worry. We'll just I know. I'll call you crying, bro. I'll call you crying.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I love you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. We love you too.
Hey, Carlos, Heather, you guys are amazing.
You're
Thank you for
favorite.
having us.
You're a favorite.
You're the best.